Okay, so here's the presentation for tonight. Let me know when I'm on.
Eyes on.
Eyes on.
Outstanding. Okay, so first of all, good evening. What we'll see here is the basics of closer support. It can be a little, well, pretty much, very much complicated, but we'll start easy and slowly and with the basics. And of course, in time, things can get a little more complicated and also interesting. So it's a lot to learn, so don't worry and don't feel intimidated if it little bit feels like too much at the beginning. It is difficult for everyone. I was on my first CAS training, I was all over the place, so no big deal. So let's start with the definitions. We are on slide 2. Closer support, basically, I'm not going to read it everything here, but basically, whenever you are at the aircraft and you need to kill bad guys on the ground, if there are friendlies anywhere around, then it's a closer support situation, which means you have to have a very good coordination with the guys on the ground to make sure you avoid friendly fire. One moment, let me put my mic on constant. Stand by. Okay, testing. You hear me?
Yes.
Outstanding. Okay, so anytime we have friendlies anywhere around, it's a closer support. By definition, we don't define the specific distance, for example, 5 nautical miles between bad guys and good guys, because the proximity, it's more of a situational dependent. It can be two groups which, for example, 1 kilometer away in a desert, which is very relatively easy to distinguish, and it can be two groups, one enemy, one friendly, 5 kilometers away from each other inside the forest, okay, which is much more difficult to distinguish where the bad guys are, and of course where the good guys are. So it's very much situation dependent. It also depends on the disposition of the forces, if they are offensive or defensive. Okay, who is the offensive, who is the defensive, how they are deployed, what's the weather, fog, mist, stuff like that. It depends on a lot of things. So whenever there's a doubt, there will be someone coordinating the attacks from the air to the ground. Forward air controller airborne, or FACA as we call it, is basically a terminal controller, a pilot, okay, that's doing the coordination, to avoid friendly fires from the air, from the cockpit. Basically, there are some advantages and disadvantages for a FACA as opposed to a JTAC. Okay, JTAC is doing the exact same thing, but he's on the ground. He's sitting with the battalion commander or the squad commander on the ground with the friendlies, and is doing the coordination from ground level. So each of them has its own advantages. For example, the FACA has a much better line of sight to anywhere around because he's airborne. Okay, he also has a lot better communication with everyone because there's no terrain masking for the radios. On the other hand, he has reduced situational awareness with regard to what the friendlies are doing. Okay, if the JTAC, for example, the Joint Terminal Attack Controller, is driving with the ground force, he knows a lot better where he is. Okay, and the FACA needs to figure it out. Okay, so there are advantages and disadvantages. Both of them will be specifically now talking about the JTAC. Basically, the JTAC is sort of a liaison between the ground force commander and the aircraft, the CAS flights. The ground force commander, the GFC, is the one commanding everything on the ground, and everyone else is supporting him. Okay, the CAS flight, the primary mission is to support the ground force command. Of course, we put fire, we kill specific targets, and to achieve a certain situation that the ground force wants us to achieve in order for him to fulfill his mission. So the JTAC is also subordinate basically to the ground force commander. Okay, and the ground force commander can tell him, listen, guy, I want you to kill, to make sure those enemy platoon of tanks get them killed. Okay, take them out. So the JTAC looks at them, he looks to what the friendlies are doing, and he sort of digests what the GFC tells him to do, and translate it into orders for the CAS flights. Okay, so this is basically the flow. Okay, the JTAC receives the intent, what we call the ground force commander intent from the GFC, and translate it to what he's planning for the CAS flights to do. Danger close, you might hear this from time to time. Danger close is a situation when we need to employ ordnance in a distance from friendlies, which is less the safe distance. Okay, for each type of ordnance and profile of attack, there is a specific distance under which we try to avoid using it, because there is a certain risk of friendly casualties. Okay, there's a way to calculate it exactly. I'm not going to get into it. You can read it in the CAS TGP if you want. But basically, for example, for bombs, the safe distance is about 300 meters or so. For the Avenger, the gun from the A-10, it's about 100 meters, give or take. But sometimes there's a situation when, okay, so JTAC is authorized, okay, that's the word, is authorized to employ ordnance down to the safe distance, not below it. If there's a need to shoot, to fire below the minimum safe distance, the authority must come from the ground force commander. Okay, he assumes responsibility for this attack, and he knows that as a result of this attack, this specific attack, he might end up with friendly casualties. Okay, but sometimes there's no other choice. So the ground force commander will give the JTAC his initials, his name initials, and the JTAC will relate to the CAS flight and state that this is a danger close situation, and will give the CAS pilot the initials of the ground force commander. So that it's sort of a procedural way to let him know that, okay, the ground force commander is taking responsibility of this, so we can do it. We can proceed with it. Okay, so this is the danger close. We'll get more into details later on, of course, how exactly it's done. Any questions, just stop me. Feel free, anytime. Okay, CAS flow. We are on slide 3. And this flow is not exactly updated. We are now, as of these days, we are working to update it to more relate to the real life flow. But basically, it starts, of course, there can be a CAS request, or permission, or planned CAS. CAS flight can, of course, CAS operation can be pre-planned. Okay, so the attack can sit with the pilots or coordinate in advance exactly what we're going to do. For example, if it's an offensive operation, okay, we initiate the attack, we have the initiative on the ground, so we know what we are going to do. So we can plan ahead exactly what we want the CAS flights to do at any given moment, what type of targets, where to hold, what to fire, what ordnance to use, basically everything. So this is fun because you can plan it in advance and it's a lot easier in the air. But sometimes the CAS operation is unplanned. Okay, it's a haste one. So, for example, if friendly forces are under attack, and now the ground force commander urgently requests air support to help him. Okay, so there's no time to plan. All the planning, all the coordination is done on the fly. So, of course, there's a lot more work to do when arriving to the area of operation before we can start killing stuff. So We start by the aircraft arriving to what we call as the contact point, or the CP. Okay, the contact point is a predefined point somewhere around the area of operation. You go there, you wait, you switch the radio to the frequency you were giving for the JTAC, and you establish contacts. Once the JTAC answers, there will be the authentication, same authentication as we do with AWACS, okay, with AET table or with Ramrod. Basically, the intent here is to make sure that the JTAC you're talking with is not held by enemy forces, or there's no bad guys playing games with us. After the comms established with the JTAC, there can be one of a few things. It can be JTAC will ask for the CAS checking. One moment. CAS checking will go through all these blocks in details, but the CAS checking is basically a brief delivered by the pilot, which tells the JTAC, hey, my name is Bear. I'm flying an F-14. I have with me bombs, missiles, guns, whatever. My playtime is 90 minutes, etc., etc. A few, basically some details that allow the JTAC to know what what this flight can do for him. Okay, I remind again, some CAS missions are not planned in advance, so the JTAC is asking for CAS. The AWACS is diverting CAS flight or alert flights to the area, and sometimes they have ordnance. The JTAC doesn't know them. He doesn't know what ordnance they have, what kind of aircraft, where they are. So this is the way of the pilot to tell the JTAC, this is me and this is how I can help you. Once this is done, the JTAC will give the traffic and airspace update, which basically tells the pilot that just arrived to the AO, this is the situation in the air, in the airspace. Okay, we have 2 more flights currently in the area. This flight is holding down there in the south. This is the altitude blocks. There's another flight holding in the north, in another altitude block. We have specific hazards, for example, terrain or SAMs, stuff like that. Maybe friendly fires like artillery firing, so the pilot needs to know it because it could be dangerous. So the JTAC is giving all those details to the newly arrived CAS flight, and then proceed to the AO update. AO update, which is the area of operation update. It's again a situation update, but it refers to what's going on the ground. Okay, the reason we came here is because what the ground force commander needs us to do. So the intent of the AO update is to build the situation awareness for the pilots to know what the ground situation is, where the bad guys are, what type of bad guys, manned battle tanks, APCs, maybe a squad or maybe a battalion. Okay, what they have, artillery, what's the intent of the ground force commander. Okay, what he wants us to do. He wants us to attreat the bad guys, destroy them, neutralize them, block their advance, hold them off, whatever. Okay, JTAC will relay all those details during the AO update. Okay, so by now the CAS flight is already aware of what's going on in the air, what's going on the ground. The JTAC knows what the CAS flight has, and we can start doing business. Okay, doing attacks. So we have what we call the CAS brief, okay, which is a specific brief for an attack. Of course, we'll get to it in detail. JTAC delivers the CAS brief, gets the mandatory readbacks from the pilot to make sure the pilot got right where the friendlies are or what all the restrictions are. We're doing a short verification or correlation to make sure the JTAC and the pilot are looking at the same target. Okay, you'll be surprised how many times it's not the situation. Okay, even after the brief, the JTAC is looking at this main battle tank, but the pilot is looking on another main battle tank. Okay, so it's very risky. We need to make sure we're talking on the same one. We're doing the actual attack, and then, of course, we do an assessment what the results of the attack. Maybe we need to re-attack, to repeat the attack, or maybe we could move on to the next target. Okay, this is the basic flow. And now we get on slide 4. If you're still with me, just make a noise so I know you did not fall asleep.
Sorry, what?
Okay, types of control. This is something that we use for every attack. Okay, every engagement, every specific attack is managed under one of three possible types of control. Okay, the definition here in this slide is sort of definition for lawyers. Okay, I don't like them, so I will do it. You can read it, of course, but I will make it more simple. I'll try to make it more simple. Basically, type 1 is used when the hostile, the target, is close to friendlies, and the ordnance that's going to be used is a dumb ordnance. For example, gun rounds, dumb bombs, rockets, stuff like that. Okay, it's very dangerous, of course. It depends where the bombs will fall or the gun rounds will fall. Depends on where the aircraft is pointing. Okay, because it's unguided ordnance. So in this situation, the JTAC wants to have eyes on the target and have eyes on the aircraft. And only after he assesses the geometry of the attack and see that the aircraft is not pointing at him but to the target, he will give the clearance to fire. Okay, it's difficult. Things happen fast because consider you are diving for a gun run on a target with a fast mover. The ground comes close to you very quickly. Okay, so if you don't get clearance in 1 or 2 or 3 seconds, you are not authorized to open fire, and you need to be off target, probably dry. Okay, so it's very high pace. But it's very fun as well. So this is type 1. Type 2 is, it can happen also if targets are close, but it will usually be used in situation when we use guided ordnance, like laser guided bombs, Mavericks, JDAMs, stuff like that. And in this situation, the JTAC doesn't have to see either the target or the aircraft. Okay, you might not see the target because it's obscured by buildings, terrain, trees, weather, okay, fog, for example. And he may not see the aircraft because the aircraft is far away. Okay, for example, consider that you fire a JSOW or a Maverick from 10 miles out. JTAC will probably not be able to see you. And even if he is, it's a guided munition, so it maneuvers in flight. So the fact that the flight is pointing at one direction doesn't mean that the missile will fly there anyway. Okay, so this is when we use type 2. Of course, there's an entire set of ways to determine that the target is correct, that the aircraft is locked on the correct target. So indeed, the missile or the bomb will fly where they are supposed to. Type 3 is used usually when there is a good distinction between hostiles and friendlies. For example, the easiest example is we have a river with our forces on one side and the hostile forces on the other side. Okay, so the JTAC can issue a Type 3, which allows the aircraft to do several attack runs on several different targets without being cleared for each and every target by the JTAC. Okay, for example, the JTAC can tell you, okay, you see this river, on the other side of the river, there should be a battalion of main battle tanks, of enemy tanks. I have no friendlies there. You can start kill anything on the other side of the river which looks like a tank. Okay, this is the general. In general, this is what Type 3 sounds like. Okay, this is the area where you're going to kill stuff. I want you to kill main battle tanks or APCs or specific targets, and I want you to do it for example 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And after you are done, after 10 minutes, call me and let me know what you killed. Okay, it's very cool. It's very useful, Type 3, because in the meantime, the JTAC can control other aircraft in Type 1 or Type 2. Okay, which needs, of course, a much more close control. Okay, so if I have a possibility to handle one aircraft with the Type 3, I will usually try to do it right from the start, so I have time to work with other aircraft while knowing that targets are being killed already as we speak. So it's very useful. Of course, it's not always possible, okay, because there won't always be a situation where I can use Type 3 in a safe manner. Okay, questions about type of control?
Nope.
Outstanding.
No, but is it true that actually like Type 1 is pretty rare since besides training situation, since we don't really have a precise information from a JTAC most of the time?
Okay, say again, sorry, I did not copy.
Just more curiosity stuff. I was reading that Type 1 is rather rare in actual situations, since most of the time the JTAC doesn't have a precise view of the target.
Yeah, it's also it's one thing, because if the JTAC sees the target, it also makes sense that the target can see him or the friendly forces. So it's sort of a last resort. It will happen usually in close range. And of course, the control is much more difficult because the JTAC usually it's not in real life. It's not a single person doing the job. It's a team, which called a tactical air control party. So a few guys, all of them qualified. So one of them is looking at the target, one of them is looking at the aircraft, and of course they need to work together.
In Attack 2, if I say Ghost for 1 in hot, since you don't have the visual on the target, I still need for your clearance?
Yes, because on a Type 2 you will need to stake your final attack heading. We'll get to it. Which is the heading. I want you to make the attack in a very specific heading, okay, with a specific tolerance. For example, your final attack heading is 270 plus minus 20 degrees, which means your attack, your weapon release must be at this direction. Okay, so when you call me, you say you're in hot and you say you're heading. So even if I don't see you, but you give the correct heading, the real heading that you're at, I can assume that even if you miss the target, at least you will not hit friendlies. Okay. The biggest danger from friendly fire is there are two possibilities. One of them is misidentification, and the other is bombs or ordnance falling short or long. Okay, so if we have a target and a friendlies which are lined up roughly east-west from each other, so the attack will likely be either north to south or south to north. So the friendlies are at the maximum distance away from the line of fire. Okay, so even if the bombs are falling short, they will not fall on friendlies' heads. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, slide 5. Permissive environment or non-permissive environment, it relates to the threat, the anti-air threat from hostiles in the vicinity of the battlefield. If we have SAMs, so of course it will be a non-permissive environment. Of course, depending on the type of SAMs, it might be only Strelas and stuff like that, which means you need to keep high to be out of the kill envelope. Or it can also mean it will be like SA2s, SA6, so we need to be very low inside the terrain and make low-level pop-ups or stuff like that. Permissive environment is when the threat is reduced. For example, if it's machine guns or AAAs and stuff like that. Of course, it is dangerous, but it's relatively safe. So you can probably, at least for some sort of aircraft like the A-10, they can be placed to hold what we call the overhead. Okay, basically circling over the friendlies and targets area, and have eyes on the targets, eyes on the friendlies, and have a much better situational awareness on what's going on, and also being able to respond much more quickly to any threats that appear on the ground or hostiles that appear on the ground. So this is a permissive environment. And of course, you know, the A-10 is like a tank, so it can take some small arms fire and still fly. So it's a calculated risk. Of course, if it's a non-permissive and the threat is very high, we will probably need seed flights as well and coordinate with them for every specific attack on what you get things more complicated. Okay, preparation on slide 6. So basically in the AO, the area of operation, what we have the CP, which is the contact point. Okay, this is where we fly from. This is where we start. Okay, you fly there. From there, you try to make contact with the JTAC. After you make contact with the JTAC will give the traffic airspace update, the AO update. Will take the check-in, and then it will push you to an IP or initial point. So the initial point is place where you should hold until you commence an attack against, of course, directed by the JTAC. We will usually have several IPs, okay, spread someplace around the target area, usually above over friendly ground. So if anything happened, you are over friendly ground and you will not be taken hostage, captured. And of course, we will usually also deconflict aircraft by altitude blocks if possible. Okay, if there is no cloud limitation, we'll try to place aircraft by blocks, even on the same IP. Okay, so it's very, very important to be at the IP you are assigned to and the altitude block you are assigned to. Okay, because it can be really crowded compared to other scenarios that you might be familiar with. Okay, you can have 3 flights stacked on top of each other with 1,000 feet separation between them. All of them are doing circles and waiting for targets. Okay, so we need to make sure always that you are on the correct place and you are not being shifted away from the IP by wind. Okay, when you're doing circles, have a look and make sure that you are still where you're supposed to be. And of course, don't come closer to the target. Again, if it's a pre-planned operation, IPs will be determined in advance. So it's easier for the pilots as well to be familiar where they are going to hold. Okay, and how it looks like. And at some point, at some other situation, it will be a hasty operation. So we'll see in a moment about what a keyhole is, which is a much faster way to establish aircraft around the target area. Okay, in the next few slides, we can see what we call a GRG or grid reference graphics, which sort of maps, which if we have a planned operation, we can distribute those maps between the JTAC and the flights. The flight can have them on the kneeboards, and we can have a much sort of a common language for quick reference between mostly terrain features on the ground. Okay, so instead of using coordinates for every target and slow talk-ons, we can talk basically according to a map. Okay, you see this, for example, on slide 7. Okay, you see objective Grizzly. Okay, on the left-hand side, building 5-1, corner Alpha. I have a soldier standing there. Okay, much faster than starting playing with coordinates. Okay, tonight for the basic stuff we will not be working with the GRGs, but we will practice the use of coordinates and talk-ons without a map, which is much more fun. Okay, so slide 9 en route, basically when you're on the way you can prepare your check-in brief because you know what loadout you have, I hope. You know the time on station and you know what your playtime is, okay, when you will need to leave, either to land or to go air-to-air refuel and be back on station. You can set up, do all the preparations, the tactical preparations, build the situational awareness if possible, and of course check in with the JTAC when the time comes and when you are on the contact point. One thing I forgot about I will get to it later, actually. Okay, slide 10, authentication, no question, I assume, right?
All good.
No.
Slide
No.
11, disregard, not relevant anymore. Okay, traffic airspace update. Slide 12. So, as I said, this is where the JTAG lets you know. Basically, he knows you should be on the contact point, and now his job is to take you by hand and put you where he wants you to be in a safe manner, so you don't run into anyone or into the ground. So it will start usually by saying which other flights are in the air, in the airspace. Okay, what's the call sign, what the type of aircraft, how many aircraft in the flight, and where they are holding. For example, one other flight in the air, your Beast flight, 2 Ship 8 and Charlie, holding IP Golf, altitude blocks below 10,000 feet. Okay. After you don't need to write it down, but you should be aware of it. If it helps you to write it down, excellent. But it's good to know where everybody is. And after that, after he tells you where all the other guys are, he will tell you where and how you should go. Okay. I want you to proceed for IP Delta 9, maintain below 10,000 feet. When you arrive Delta 9, climb 15 to 16,000 feet. Okay, just an example. For this instruction, JTAG needs a readback. Okay, just like an ATC that gives you instructions for routing or clearances. You read it back, and then you get on your way. Of course, you need a minute or two to punch in the coordinates and all the details in your system. And JTAG will then ask call established. Okay, which means once you arrive at your holding where it told you to be, you let them know. Okay, JTAG, hey there, established on IP, blah blah blah, altitude block, blah blah. Okay, so now remember the JTAG don't have a radar or any other sensor which let him know where you are. So he relies on where he thinks you are and what he hears from you. Okay, if you are in the wrong place and you did not say so, he will not know. Okay, and it's dangerous. Again, because compared to other types of missions in close air support, there's usually a lot of aircraft in a very tight space. So we need to know where everyone is. Oops. Okay, the check-in. So this is an example for the formats we use for the check-in brief. I remind the check-in is the way of you, the cast lights, to let the JTAG know who you are and how you can help him. Okay, so it's what call sign, what type and number of aircraft. Okay, one singleton, F-18, 2 ship, F-14, mission number, and what your current position. Okay, assuming usually it will probably be around the contact point, what the altitude, what ordnance you have, and ordnance means what's relevant for the JTAG. Okay, if you have air-to-air missiles, it's cool, but it's not very useful against main battle tanks, so you can omit it. What's your time on station? And if you have, for example, it can be 30 minutes, then I need to go ARR, and then I will be back with you. It's good to know for the JTAG, so he can plan his flights and schedule in accordingly. And type of sensors and capabilities. For example, if you have a TGP or Lantiran, or if you're FACA qualified, JTAG should know it, because it means you can help him manage the battle. Abort code, it's a code that will be used if the JTAG needs to abort you during the attack run. Okay, if you're already diving for the target and he wants you to stop, you can either do it what we call in the clear, which means basically call sign abort, 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 or it can be a code like from the authentication table. Okay, abort code will be Alpha Charlie Echo, for example. And then when the JTAG give abort and the correct letter, then you know it's the JTAC who's aborting you. Okay. The reason for using it is that sometimes the enemy can listen on your comms and simply abort your attack runs. Okay, so you want to, it's basically for operational security. Sorry. Questions?
No.
Nope.
Excellent. So the check-in, basically, you give it to the JTAC after you authenticating, and after he tells you that he is ready for a check-in. Okay. In some situation, he will likely, if sometimes the JTAC is busy and has other flight in progress and other attack in progress, he will want you to know where you are, what your position and altitude, and then he will take your check-in later. Okay. I mean, you are not going anywhere, so there's no rush. Area update or AO update, area of operation update. I'm on slide 14. So this is the format we use to let the pilot know what's going on the ground. Okay, situation update will come with the letter AO update alpha, AO update bravo, depending on as the situation evolves. Usually it will be contain what the threats are, what the type of target, and where they are. Okay. If JTAC already has tally on target, he will let you know. What's not shown here is the general situation and the ground force command intent, which we always give. Okay, situation basically, it can be friendlies are defending against an enemy attack from the east. Okay, enemy has two battalions. Friendlies are 2 companies. Okay, this is the very general situation. After that, what the ground force commander intent is. Okay, intent is to take out main battle tanks and command vehicles. Okay, so now you already have in 2 lines, you already have a general sense of what we are expecting you to do. After that comes all the details that are shown here. Okay, what the threats are, where the targets are. If you have priorities for target, it will be given. Where the friendlies are. Okay, and again, what the posture is: defensive, offensive, dynamic, static. Friendlies location are a mandatory readback, so write them down because the JTAC will want you to read back to make sure you know where the friendlies are. Okay, if we have artillery activity, friendly artillery, it will be given. Okay, because it's relevant. Artillery shells go up and you are also up, so it might conflict. So JTAC will define where the artillery is, what is the GTL or the gun target line, okay, so that you know approximately what the direction of the artillery fire, what the max ordnance, okay, the maximum altitude which the shells are going up before they go back down on the targets. Okay. It will also be stated through the CAS briefs and all the other information that you give. So you don't need to calculate it in your heads, but good for general reference. Who has a clearance authority? Basically, who has control? Okay, we have 4 types of clearances for a close air support. We'll get to it later, but here JTAC will state who has what. Usually JTAC has full clearance. Ordnance disregard is per what you have and what the specific attack requires. The restrictions is basically what we want to avoid throughout the mission. Okay, there can be restrictions specific for a CAS attack, and these are the restrictions for the entire duration of the mission. For example, minimize collateral damage. Okay, you see this bridge on the road, do not hit the bridge no matter what, because we need it for later maneuver. Stuff like that. Okay, if for example we are attacking near and we are trying to take an airfield, to seize an airfield, avoid cratering of runways. Okay, this is restrictions. It applies for the duration of the mission. Okay, so JTAC doesn't need to repeat it for every specific attack, but you give it now and you need to be aware of it. Usually restrictions are also mandatory readbacks. Okay, so be ready for it. What the hazards are: weather, terrain, high voltage power lines, antennas, high buildings, stuff like that, which might risk low level flying. And remarks. For example, JTAC capable of smoke mark, laser mark, infrared mark, things like that. Questions about the AO update?
No.
Okay, CAS brief. After you have all the SA build up and the traffic airspace and everything, you're ready to have some fun. CAS brief is a brief that's given for every specific attack that you do. It's divided into 3 parts: the game plan, the 9 line, and the remarks and restrictions. Okay, the game plan, it's sort of an overview. Okay, what's the type of control is? You remember, it will be type 2 control, type 1 control, type 3 control. Okay, what the method? There are 2 types of two methods that we use. One of them is BOT, or bomb on target, and the other is bomb on coordinates. Bomb on target means that you will have a visual cue or some sort of cue where to drop your bombs. For example, if you have tally on the target, okay, of course you can shoot the missile or the rockets on the target, but at some situations you will be given coordinates and you will be asked to shoot at the coordinates even if you don't see anything there. For example, if we have enemy infantry in the tree line, okay, there's no chance that you will see infantry inside the forest, right? So JTAC will give coordinate. Of course, we will verify that you have the correct coordinate, and you will drop your bombs or your ordnance on the coordinates even if you don't see anything. Another situation is the full overcast, and you fly above the clouds, and the JTAC is ground lasing on the target. Okay, so there's a laser. The bomb will acquire the laser mark once it passes below clouds, but you will never see the target. Okay. So this is the game plan, basically. The 9 line, I'm now on slide 16. It's like the format that you should have already. As the name states, it's 9 lines. Usually it's read very quickly by the JTAC. I will try to do it slow because I read English slow, but it's also a first time. So those 9s should provide the initial targeted information to let you know where the target is, and of course where the friendlies are. And there are 3 lines from those lines are mandatory readbacks. Okay, which line? Line 4, line 6, and line 8. Okay, target elevation, target location, and location of friendlies relative to the target. Okay, we'll get to this in a moment. First, we have line 1, IP or BP, basically where do you start the attack. Okay, if you are on an IP delta, it will be delta. Okay, heading, it's usually not relevant for fixed wing. It's more used by rotary wings. Distance also, it's not very useful for aircraft. Basically, it's the IP, the heading from the IP to the target, and the distance from the IP to the target. But for again, for fixed wing, it's not. Usually, it will be 123 NA or IP Foxtrot 1 23 NA. Okay. Target elevation above mean sea level, given in feet. Target description, it's a very short description. It's not a full talk on only tanks on the road, okay, or APC, or 2 times APCs. Target location will be usually, it can be coordinates, it can be a token, okay, the line 6 per token, which means later on I will tell you exactly where the target is. Okay, I don't want to read you coordinates now, but I will let you know where it is. Type of mark, line 7, If we have a smoke mark or a laser mark, it will be given here. If it's a laser mark, we also give the code, the PRF. Line 8 is the location of the friendlies relative to the target. Okay, so if I'm in the JTAC and I see I have the target to my west 300 meters, then line 8 will be friendlies east 300 meters, right? Because it's reciprocal. And of course, this is the location of the nearest friendlies. Okay, there could be a lot of more friendlies behind me, but I'm the closest one, so I'm what's relevant. And line 9 is the egress. Is okay after you do the attack, after you employ ordnance, what you are supposed to do. So egress can be flatly discretion. It can be egress east, climb and back to IP. Okay, or west, go low and then climb back to IP. Okay, something like that, depending on the situation. Okay, there are other remarks can be given later, but this is the basic 9 line. Okay, I will not go into time on target and stuff like that for now. Okay, questions about the 9 line? Outstanding. Where is the remarks and restrictions here? Oh, it's there. Okay, it's on the same slide. So after the 9 line comes the third part of the CAS brief, which is the remarks and restrictions. And here we do a lot short talk on first to make sure that you know where the target is and we are talking about the same target. Any more remarks that I have for the attack? For example, I want you to come from high level or low level if possible. And the most important is the final attack heading. Okay, final attack heading is part of the restrictions. Okay, we have remarks and restrictions. So restrictions can be final attack heading 090 plus minus 50. Okay, which means I want you to attack from west to east plus minus 50 degrees. Restriction also is a mandatory readback, so I need you to read it back to me and to make sure that you have it right. Okay. One more note that I forgot about the 9 line. Target location. Okay. As you remember on the game plan, it can be bomb on target or bomb on coordinates. If the attack is bomb on coordinates, then the target location, the readback, should be from the system. Okay, it must be system readback, as you call it, and not scratchpad system readback. Okay, because I need you to know, to verify that you punch in the numbers correctly to your system, and the system understood it. Okay, it's very important. Okay, so this is the remarks, restrictions. Again, restrictions are mandatory readbacks. So up until now, we have lines 4, 6, and 8, and restrictions are mandatory readbacks. Now, the flow, the separation between how the CAS brief sounds like in the radio is something like that. Let me find an example here. I don't know.
Well, it's finding the example. I would say that in this moment, this is where it's very useful to take notes, actually writing down, because the amount of information can pile up really quickly in your mind. And if you're not taking notes or something that could be useful, it's very easy to slip some information or not remember something or not reading back something.
Yeah, definitely. The 9 line is something you should write down when you receive it. I mean, you don't need to read it all back, but the important bits you need to write down. For example, location friendlies, because you need to be able to read it back. So if you are capable of, for example, when I give you the coordinates, the target location, punch it in directly to the system, okay, to create a waypoint. It's cool, it's fun, it's the best way. I personally, when I fly, I'm unable to do it, so I write it down with a pen and paper, and then I read it back, and then I punch it into the CDU. So, but of course you need a pen and a paper and be ready to do a lot of homework while you are in the pit for this part. So the flow, basically the flow will be the cast brief. Again, start with the game plan. Okay, cast brief, for example, alpha as follows: type 2 in effect, bomb on target, request AGM65. Okay, after that, call ready 9 line. Okay, I want to make sure you are ready to copy the 9 line. Once you say your copy, okay, IP 1, 2 lines, it will be 9 line as follows: lines 1, 2, 3, NA, not applicable. Elevation 300 feet. Target description, main battle tank. Target location, northings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Eastings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. No mark, which means I don't have mark for you for this attack. Friendlies east 500 meters. Egress west and back to IP. Okay, this is basically how it sounds like up until the end of the 9 line. After that, flight, JTAC, readback lines 4, 6, and 8. Okay, and now I need you to read back to me those 3 lines to make sure you got them right. If not, I will repeat them. There's no problem to repeat it. Anytime, at any given time, always make sure to ask for clarifications. Okay, don't assume anything. If something is not clear, ask for a repetition or clarification. It's very, very, very important. Okay. Also, I will get to it later, actually. So after you get me the readbacks, and the readbacks are good, and I will ask call ready for remarks and restrictions. Okay, and now you are ready to copy remarks and restrictions, and it will be remarks. First it will be slew sensor to line 6 or to target location, and call ready, call contact. At this point, of course you take a minute or two to slew the sensor to the TGP, to the target area. Once you have it there, you don't need to look for the target, just look at the coordinate and have a quick look around, and let me know if you call if you see something or see nothing. If you see a target, you give me a short description of what you see. For example, I have one time main battle tank facing east, next to the road or on the road. Okay, and then from your description, I understand if this is the correct target or not. Okay, we might do a little more question and answer to make sure it's the target, but this is the remarks, the token. After that, once I'm satisfied that you see the correct target, I give you the restrictions. Okay, make your final attack heading 090 plus minus 30. Then you read it back to me, and then I say good readback, call when leaving IP. Okay, which means from this point, you have everything that you need. I know that you are fixed on your target, you know what you need to do. Just let me know when you are ready to leave the IP for the attack. Okay, leave IP, but of course it means you need to fly to some point so you can maneuver and be on the final attack heading for the attack that you were given. Okay. One more call that I will usually ask for is a call when tipping in, which means tip in is the last maneuver that you do in order to align yourself with the target. And it's good for me to know when you're doing it, because I'm expecting, this is the time when I expect to see you, okay, coming my way. And also possible that I will ask for flares when you tip in. Okay, so pop 1 flare, 2 flares, just so it's easier for me to spot you. And then I will call visual, and we can continue. Once you are heading for the target, you are ready to fire, you call, this is my call sign, in hot, heading 090, okay, or 082, for example. and then I will give you the cleared hut. Cleared hut means you are clear to shoot.
Is it mandatory to get the actual course of your heading?
What calls again?
Goes for one in hot, but since we already established that I was aligning in, do I actually need to say?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's mandatory. It means to me that you see the target, you are lined up with it, you know what your heading is. I mean, you have the situational awareness to know which way you're flying, and you're ready to shoot. Okay, so I need to know all of it. And if you give you call a final attacking which doesn't sound right for me, then I will call abort, or I will not give you any response, in which case you are not allowed to fire. Okay, for type 1 and 2, you must receive cleared hut from the JTAC, so you can release the ordnance. If you don't get the cleared hut, you don't shoot anything. Okay, very, very important. This is very specific for type 1 and 2. For type 3 is a little different. We'll get to it later. Now, for every step along the way, when you call, for example, leave in IP, my answer will be continue. Continue means, okay, I hear you. You can proceed to the next step of the attack. Okay, when you call tip in, you also continue. If you are very far away, for example, you do the tip in 20 miles away, okay, I will say continue, which means, okay, I know you're tipping in. Now you say clear. I'm in a hot heading 0900. If you are 20 miles away and I'm not sure, I will tell, okay, continue. Okay, you are not clear the hard yet. I did not abort you, but I want you to come a little bit closer. Okay, so continue. Only when I give you the cleared hut, you can squeeze the trigger. Okay. Of course, for type 2, I will probably clear you hot way in advance, but if it's a type 1, I will need you to come closer so I can see you and judge by what I see that you are lined up with the target and what not with me. Okay, this is the reason I will give you a few continues before I give the actual clearance. Okay? Outstanding.
Just a quick question. When doing the calls for tipping in, etc., is it fine to leave off your call sign as warrior? Because otherwise you're going to have a ton of messages.
Yeah, it can be, what would be Spectre 4-1 tipping in.
Copy.
Okay. Now, it's very important. Usually there's a lot of chatter on the CAS frequencies. Sometimes there are 2 frequencies, but sometimes only 1. When a pilot says tipping in, it's a hint for everyone to shut up, because it means that in a few seconds he will be in hot, and unless if he's being stepped on or I'm being stepped on when trying to clear him for the cleared hot, it will be a dry run. Okay, so tipping in is it's very important call. It's not a mandatory by an official definition, but it's very useful because it tells me, okay, you put down the beer, I'm about to ask for clearance, and also it tells everyone else to keep quiet, leave the network. There's a guy going to shoot, and we need to be quiet to be ready for it. Okay?
Cool. Yep, that's lovely. And my second question would be, when giving a coordinates, is it up to sort of you which coordinate system you use and us to convert it? Or will you try and keep it to DDM, DMS? Whereas
I will try to give it in the way that you are able to receive. And okay, it's a very good question, because if you have any way during the mission to improve it, so be proactive and improve it. Okay, if I give you coordinates in a way that you don't like, or if I give you an IP, for example, which is not the best one because you don't have line of sight to the target, okay? Or what other examples? or if, for example, for the game plan, I request for Mark 82s, but you feel that this attack will be better used with the GBUs, then these are things that it's very important that you give back to the JTAC. Okay, be proactive. Okay, if you think you are given stupid orders or requests, state it, say so, and probably most likely JTAC will accept your recommendation. Okay, for example, if I gave you an IP but you are masked by terrain and you don't see anything, you can ask to either climb or to shift west 5 miles. Okay, and then I will check my chart and make sure it's safe, and I will give you, okay, clear for a new IP here. Okay, it's very important. It's also important during the preparation for a planned mission. Okay, when we give the CAX coordination documents before the mission, go through it. If you see anything that it's not sound, or it's not very wise, or you think it can be done better, then say so. Okay, you know your airframe and your capabilities a lot better than I do. Okay, I don't fly the F-18 or the F-14, so you know it a lot better than I am. So if I tell you to do something that's not safe or not effective, I need to know it.
Sounds good.
Okay, IP selection, basically it's more for the JTAC, but the rule of thumbs for an IP is to be with line of sight to target area, safe from threats, so you can go heads down and do all the homework, all the red tapes that you need to do. And preferably it will be easily distinguishable from the air. For example, IP over a village, mountain, road junction, lakes, stuff like that. So you don't need your system to know that you are over the IP. Okay, you can look down from the canopy and see that you are where you should be. It's preferable. It's not always possible, of course. Okay, keyhole and STIP. I'm on slide 18. I'll be back. One mic. I'm going for a beer. Okay. Okay, keyhole and hasty IPs. So sometimes again we don't have time or opportunity to plan in advance, so we'll do a hasty IP to stack all the aircraft where we want to stack them. What we use is something that we call point echo. Point echo will usually be some distinct feature on the ground, like a road junction, bridge, the large building, something like that. That of course we provide coordinates. JTAC will provide the coordinates for point echo. Usually it will be at the beginning during the traffic and airspace update. And now from point echo, it's like an anchor point. It's basically like a bullseye localized for the CAS game. So from the echo point, we have 4 cardinal directions: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. Okay, Alpha North, Bravo East, Charlie South, and Delta West. And then we can go, okay, flight, this is JTAC, your IP is Alpha 8, which means from point echo, north, 8 nautical miles. Okay, this is the IP. It's very simple, very quick. Okay, of course, can be any other direction. If it's not a cardinal direction, it will be IP, for example, to the northeast, 6 nautical miles. It will be IP echo 04508. 06, sorry. Okay, from point echo, heading 045, and the distance. Okay, and of course it's followed by a flight block or altitude block. Okay.
Okay.
Now it's of course it's approximated. It's not. You should not be exactly 5 nautical or 8 nautical, but it's just for reference. And when we use a hasty IP or keyhole, and the IP that the JTAC gives, it means no closer than. So, for example, for a IP Alpha 8, it means that the center of the IP, of your IP, it's a little bit further to the north, so that when you do the circles, the wheel in the IP, you do not come closer than 8 nautical miles to the target. Okay, it's okay to be a little further away, but not closer. Okay, and it's important because if you come closer, you might get inside the envelope of SAMs or get in the way of other aircraft that are maneuvering in preparation for their attack. Okay, or if we want to keep the enemy by surprise, so we want to keep the aircraft away so they are not seen and not heard, it's also a reason. But it's important not to come closer than the designated position. Okay, so if when I get a keyhole from the JTAC, for example, for Alpha 8, I punch in the offset for 10 or 11 miles. Okay, so I know I'm a few miles away, just to make sure. But of course, how the technique, how to do it to make sure you are there, it's up to you. I have no idea about the systems on the Cats or the Hornets. Okay, questions about keyhole? It's very, very useful. We do it all the time, so it's important to know it. Of course, again, during the training, questions, not sure, ask me and I will clarify. Okay, slide 19, wheel. So when we have permissive environment and it's possible to bring the aircraft closer and not holding them further away, we'll do it. We'll bring the aircraft closer. Wheel means overhead the target area. It can sound like, again, we'll have a point echo. And I can say that your IP is Echo 5. Okay, Echo 5. Okay, it's not Alpha 5. It's no distance. It's no direction. It's only distance. When I say Echo 5, I mean I want you to be overhead, but no closer than 5 nautical miles from point echo. Which means you can do orbits of a 10 miles radius. Okay, but not come closer. Okay. If possible, it will be clear for the overhead. Okay, with only a fly block, which means I don't care if you fly directly on top of my head. If you're happy with it, I'm happy with it. Okay, in general, a JTAC will do its best to restrict only when necessary. Okay, we don't give restrictions just for the fun of it, because it makes your life more difficult and more miserable. So anytime we can release restrictions, we will do so. For example, if I have only one flight arriving, then I will put it in an IP, for example, Alpha 8. Again, of course, I give the point echo and then Alpha 8. And then altitude, your discretion. Okay, which means I don't care if you fly on no closer than Alpha 8 at three tops level or at 50,000 feet, whatever you want. I'm happy with it. Okay, now if two flights are on the same IP, then it gets a little bit more complicated. So I can ask one flight to be below 10,000 and the other above 11,000. So even at worst, they are no closer than 1,000 feet from each other. So one flight can be from 11,000 as high as to the moon, for all I care, and the other again from 9,999 to the ground level. Okay. The minimum block for an aircraft is for a two-ship is 2,000 feet. Okay, so if I have a flight of two aircraft, they will receive a block of no less than 2,000 feet in altitude. And again, 1,000 above and below the block, at least from other aircraft. Same goes for final attack heading, which we discussed earlier. I will always give tight restrictions if needed, but if situation allows, it will be either flight heading, final attack heading, your discussion, or final attack heading east-west. Okay, east-west means 270 plus minus 45 degrees. Okay, so it's a cone of 90 degrees in total, which is very easy to reach. Okay, another released final attack heading will be east-west or south or east-west or west-east, your discretion. Which means this is the target, you can attack it from the east to the west or the west to the east, whichever you like. Okay? If possible, this is the way it will be given. Okay? When the situation dictates, it will be tighter. The tightest cone can be plus minus 10 degrees, which is very difficult to achieve. Okay, so one more, returning to the wheel slide on 19, the lines 1, 2, 3 in the cast brief in the 9 line are not applicable, or can be also be from the overhead. Okay, because there's no distance, there's no heading, because you're on top of the target basically. Okay, slide 20, talk on target verification. So again, the specific brevity that we discussed earlier. Blind is, I should be able to see friendlies, but I don't see them. Okay, visual, I have eyes on friendlies. Okay, either ground units or airborne units. Contact is anything that's not definitive friendly or hostile. Okay, for example, a road junction, building, a hill, lake, bridge. Okay, those are all contacts. Okay, let me know when you see the bridge, contact bridge. Okay, let me know when you see the river, contact river. Okay, it's good for TOCON. When you see with Mark 1 eyeball something that's definitely a target or a hostile, it's a tally. Okay, I remind that if it's a friendly, it's visual. Okay, so don't say I have tallied the friendly position. Okay, it's not good. It makes the JTAC nervous because the next thing it's going to attack this tally, which is friendlies. From when you use the TGP, again, contact is a contact, and tally is becoming a capture. Okay, if you see a target from TGP or sensor, it's capture. It's possible to, how we say, elevate a target from a contact to a capture. Okay, for instance, when you tell me, when the aircraft tells me, I have a contact main battle tank on the road driving facing east. Okay, now I look at my maps, the JTAC. I look at my maps. I know it's not a friendly, it's gotta be a bad guy. And I tell you, okay, aircraft, this is the JTAC, this is your target. And now you say, capture. Okay, capture target. Because now it's no longer a contact, it's a capture. Okay? And no joy, it's trying to see, but I don't see.
That is the most common stuff.
Yeah. looking for it, but no joy. Nah, I don't find it. Okay, so we have specifics for medium level and low level TOCONs. Some of it is more related for fast mover. The medium level it's more relevant. When you have sensor, we use feed or form object in direction. I'm on slide 21. I'm sorry. Okay, form object in direction for distance to object, just like bullseye when you think of it. Okay, bulls 0, 5, 5 or 20. Okay, so the anchor point, heading, and distance, just the same. So we use a TOCON for with the TGP or with the sensor when you see a specific landmark or terrain feature. So this will be the anchor point, and from that go in a direction for a specific distance for the next object or contact. Okay, here you can see something that we call unit of measure. Okay, so instead of talking with meters or kilometers, we take something specific on the ground that the pilot can see, and we call this is unit of measure. Okay, here it's the length of the wall. Which is it? It's the southern wall of the building. Okay, this is unit of measure. Now the anchor point is the corner, the southwest corner of the building. and then there is a 2 units of measure to the target. Okay, so the radio comms, the chatter for this situation will be, do you see the big square shape building? Contact building. Okay, the southern wall of the building, the length is unit of measure, contact unit of measure. The southwest corner of the building is the anchor point, contact anchor point. From anchor point, west, 2 units of measure, targets, capture targets. Make sense?
Yep.
Outstanding. Of course, if it's very like this, it's very, very obvious, very close, so it will be from the building west, 50 meters target. Okay, it's makes more sense to me anyway. But if the pilot is experiencing difficulties in understanding or realizing what the intent of the JTAC, then we dive to this sort of document to make sure he sees the target. For low level, it's not very useful for you guys because you'll hardly do pop-ups or low level attack runs, I think. But we use the CDO method, okay, clock distance object. We don't use east, west, north, south because when you fly low level inside a valley like this on slide 22, the directions are confusing. So the JTAC will try to imagine what you see from the cockpit. And he will say, okay, from the gray piece on the slope, left 400 meters to the target. Okay, so you see what he intends. You look left or 3 o'clock, okay, from that point, an approximate distance that the JTAC tells you. For low level, we will try to paint a picture, so we'll try to describe what you're about to see as you come closer to the target. Okay, so at any time you will sort of taking you and guiding you from the big picture to the smallest picture to the smaller picture until you actually see the target, and you call tally, and this is the target, of course. This is very difficult also for the A10s, which are much slower. Okay, many times low-level attack runs are dry runs for the first run, and then after the pilot has a good look at the target area, he goes around, do a racetrack for a re-attack, and then do a hot run for the target. Okay, slide 26, clearances. So again, actually we discussed the brevity already. Abort, cleared hot, continue. And one more thing is clear to engage. Okay, when we use a type 3, okay, as I mentioned in the beginning of the evening, it basically means that you are cleared to attack several targets on several attack runs, okay, with no specific clearance for me. So type 3, if we go back, let's switch back to, where was it, slide 16, okay, for the CAS brief. So for example, if it's type 3, then again I give you the line, I get the readback for the friendlies, for the location, okay, and for the elevation. And then the restrictions are, the mandatory restrictions will be the area of engagement, okay, the type of target, and the time, okay. So it can be from the river up to 2 miles west of the river. You are looking for main battle tanks, engagement time from now plus 10 minutes. Okay, those are the restrictions. So you read them back, and once I'm satisfied, I give you flight JTAC clear to engage. Okay, clear to engage, it's for my part, you are clear to start attacking. You don't need to call in hot, you don't need to request for any further restrictions, clearances, unless you have questions. Once you get the clear to engage, the answer should be commencing an engagement. Okay, which means to me, okay, you understood, you are starting your attack, and I can move on to the next slide. Okay, this is the main difference between type 3 and types 1 and 2. Okay, slide 27, laser. One moment.
Well, just for that too, at this moment, there is quite a lot to ingest just in one night and one practice. It's normal to absorb just 10% of it the first time.
Yeah. We don't worry. For the first of all, for the practice, we take it very slowly. We don't do everything tonight. Okay, if we take off at all, which I'm not sure we will because it's a little bit late. But this should be only the starting point. Okay, you can of course come back to it. We can do trainings on specific stuff. Okay, like type 1s or type 2s or type 3s with ground lays. Okay, and tokens. We already done trainings which are solely for tokens. Okay, no coordinates, only tokens. It takes a lot of time to practice this. So I know it's a lot of material. The main objective is to give you all the theory now. And in the next events, of course, when you're happy with it, we do cast trainings one by one, and so you can get experience with it. So again, it's clear that it's a lot of material, so don't be intimidated by it. Don't be afraid of it. It's the sort of thing that's much easier to do than to learn. Okay, it sounds like crap when I do it now, but it will be a lot more clear when you actually try it. You happy to continue?
All good this side?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so for laser, when you use the ground lays by the JTAC, we have some more brevity and of course some more restrictions. Okay, the aircraft, the JTAC and the target should be aligned in a very specific way to make sure that the bomb, the laser guided bomb or missile, go for the target and not for the JTAC. Okay, which is a risk. So basically, if you see on the bottom right corner, there's a red triangle, which is the definite no zone, and the two green triangles from either side, which means if I'm lasing to the target directly ahead of me, then I want the aircraft to be either from 60 degrees to my left or to my right. Okay, in those triangles. If it's not possible, then ground lays will not be a possibility for this attack. Okay, and it's very difficult because keep in mind that there are also friendlies. Okay, and those triangles are difficult to coordinate with friendlies. So ground lays, it's not a very simple thing to do. The brevity, I'm not sure you guys got to train with laser guided bombs already. I mean, from body lays.
Negative.
I mean,
No?
I did it, but not that often.
Okay. So yeah, the brevity is pretty much the same. And we give a few calls if the pilot is able to know the time of flight of the bomb. So it's good. Okay, because we want to laze for a specific amount of time so the bomb will not lose energy. Laze on, laze off. It's laser, activate laser or deactivate a laser. Spot is for the aircraft. Is when the aircraft acquires a laser mark by the JTAC. Basically, we use lasers for two things. One of them is targeting for bombs, and the other is for target handover. Okay, it's two very different things. Okay, when we say mark by laser, it will be I will laser the target and you will drop the bomb on my mark. Okay, but I can also use my laser to illuminate the target so you can acquire it with your sensor, and from there you will take it by self-laser. Okay, which is much preferable to me. because it's much easier to coordinate. So this is basically the basics. Okay, it's a liaison, spot, and stare. It's when I illuminate the target and I want you to find my laser spot. I say stare and with the laser code. Okay, stare 1688 means okay, start looking for a spot with a PRF of 1688. We are not going to do it tonight, so don't worry. Whenever we do it on practice, we will do a short refresh before and then we do it. Same goes for brevity at night. I will not go into it now. Okay, it's slide 28. It's more specific for infrared pointer, which we use a lot, which is very much fun. Time on target, time to target on slide 29, also not very relevant for now. It's when the JTAC wants to coordinate several attacks on several targets with several cast flights. So we do time hack or time on target. Again, I'm not going to do it now. Slide 30, it's for the danger close, the safe distances for the danger close situation for all sort of ordnance. This table is pretty old. So it may not contain some of the ordnance that the cats and the bugs have. So we might need to refresh it a little bit. What else we have? We have a TLE category. I'm saying it only for background. We don't need to, we will not use it. We hardly ever use it. Okay, slide 31. TLE is target location error. And we use it to describe how well we can localize a target. For example, if I look with a binocular on a target that is 6 miles away, it might be difficult to me to give precise coordinates for this target because there is some error built into the binocular and the laser rangefinder and the azimuths, so it's not very useful. If it's a very close target, of course I can pinpoint it, and the outcome of the TLE is what we can do with the target, what kind of engagement we can do. But it's more for the JTAC than for you guys. I mean, the JTAC should know that for if the location error is pretty high, then bomb-on coordinates is not approved. Okay, so we will not give it to you. Again, this is just for reference. Okay, FECA integration, slide 32. So as I said before, between JTAC and FECA, there can be 4 types of clearances. Okay, they can divide. The ideal situation is to have a JTAC on the ground and a FECA supporting from the air, because then the FECA can take some of the workload off the JTAC, and of course help a lot for the JTAC to advance with this mission. So JTAC can give the FECA to do brief, stack, mark, on control. One of the 4 or 2 of the 4 or all of them, perhaps. Brief means the JTAC will give the FECA to do the briefing to the cast flight. For example, give the cast brief to the cast flight. Stack means handling where every aircraft is waiting. Okay, what the IP is, what the flight blocks. Okay, it's much easier for the FECA than it is for the JTAC. Mark, of course it's mark. You deploy a smoke mark, use laser mark or infrared mark on the target. And control is give the clearances, the continue calls, the cleared hot, or the abort. Okay, when there's a FECA and a JTAC, they will coordinate on 2 frequencies, and they will push you the cast flight from 1 frequency to another. Okay, the FECA will brief you on 1 frequency and then push you back to the control frequency. But again, it's more advanced stuff, so we are not going to do it today. And last, AWACS integration. So when there's a manned AWACS, it's very fun because it can take some of the workload of the JTAC. So example, if I have an AO update ready and I know there are cast flights that are inbound, I can ask the AWACS to give him the AO update, and he will relate to any other flight that's inbound to my CAS area. And it saves me the time to read the AO update again and again for every flight that arrives to my contact point. Okay, of course, AWACS can give information about air threats because, again, I don't have a radar with me. And help with communications. And that's it.